They weren't supposed to sit next to each other. It was a last-minute ticket. Evan, 41, divorced, working as a property manager in Sacramento, booked the overnight bus to Reno for one reason: to disappear for a weekend. No bachelor party, no birthday trip, no conference. Just a need to not be where he was, to be somewhere else, even if it was only a 4-hour ride away. The bus was nearly full. He'd expected empty seats, silence. Instead, it was people with heavy bags and tired eyes. College kids heading to Lake Tahoe, elderly women with snacks in plastic bags, and one woman who asked if the seat beside him was taken. Her name was Marissa. She looked around his age. No makeup, hair pulled back, hoodie with a faded logo from a 2005 half marathon. She had the kind of voice that made people want to lean in, even when she wasn't saying much. She smelled faintly of eucalyptus and some sort of herbal shampoo. They didn't talk at first. She sat down, pulled out a book. Evan stared out the window, trying not to think. Streetlights passed like blinks. The world outside grew darker, quieter. Inside, the cabin hummed. Engine noise, the rustle of jackets, soft coughing from somewhere behind them. But somewhere near Truckee, she offered him a piece of gum. That was it. That's what started it. He said thanks, then something about how weird buses smell. She laughed, a low, tired laugh, and said she was glad she wasn't the only one who noticed. They talked, quietly, slowly. She was going to Reno for a funeral, a cousin she hadn't seen in years. She wasn't sad exactly, just obligated, a favor to her aunt, really. Evan said he just needed a break. Didn't explain more, and she didn't ask. He told her how Sacramento felt like a city where nothing started, just a place things ended up. She told him she used to teach art to middle schoolers but burned out 2 years in and started freelance illustration instead. They both admitted they hadn't drawn anything in months. He used to sketch buildings when he was younger. She used to do portraits on the bus. The conversation expanded. She asked him if he believed in timing, if it was ever really about the right person or just about when they showed up. He told her he didn't know anymore, that lately he'd stopped waiting for signs, that sometimes you had to just move because staying still hurt more. They talked like people who'd left a version of themselves somewhere they didn't know how to return to. It wasn't therapy. It wasn't romance. It was just two people holding each other's stories for a few quiet hours. They spoke about parents, about expectations, about how you carry the voices of people you've loved and disappointed long after they've gone quiet, about the strange relief of being honest with a stranger. When the bus pulled into the station around 1:30 a.m., they sat for a moment longer. She was the one who said it. "Do you want to get a coffee before we go our separate ways?" They ended up in a diner that hadn't changed since the 80s. Vinyl booths, weak coffee, too much neon. A waitress with a name tag that read Gail, and a voice like she'd been smoking since the Reagan administration. They stayed for 2 hours, maybe more. Talked about the little things that make people stay somewhere, like finding a barber you trust, or a view that makes you exhale. They played what-if games. What if you had to open a business tomorrow? What if you could restart college? What if you left your phone in a drawer for a week? Neither of them checked the time. At one point, Marissa asked if he ever wanted to leave everything behind. Not just for a weekend, but for real. He didn't answer right away. Just looked at her and said, "I don't know if I'd take myself with me." She smiled, not out of pity but understanding. They laughed. Not big, loud laughter, the quiet kind, the kind that says, "I didn't expect to feel good today." Around 4 a.m., she stood, said she had to get going. He didn't try to stop her. She didn't offer a number. He didn't ask. He watched her walk out the door. Never saw her again. But sometimes, late at night, Evan thinks about that ride, that diner, that kind stranger. The way her eyes stayed on him just a second longer than politeness required. The way she told stories like she'd already made peace with their endings. Back in Sacramento, nothing really changed. But something inside him had been nudged slightly off its axis. For weeks afterward, he found himself sketching again. Nothing fancy, just buildings, doorways, windows lit from inside. Small signs of life. He took different routes to work, went to bookstores again, cooked meals that required more than one pan. It wasn't a transformation. It was a slow thaw. He didn't tell anyone about Marissa. Not because it was a secret, but because it didn't feel like something that could be explained. It hadn't been romantic. Or maybe it had. He didn't know. He kept the gum wrapper she gave him. Found it in his jacket pocket weeks later and couldn't bring himself to throw it away. One Saturday, months later, he passed by a small art shop and, on a whim, signed up for a weekend class. There he met others who used to draw and had stopped. Some were trying again. Others just needed the company. In a notebook he brought to class, he wrote her name once in the corner. Marissa. Nothing more. He never tried to find her. That wasn't the point. But for one night on the road to nowhere, someone had reminded him he was still human. Still capable of connection. Still here. A few years later, when a friend dragged him on a road trip to Vegas, they stopped at a diner on the outskirts of Reno. It wasn't the same one. The old one had closed, the friend said. But the new place had booths and coffee that tasted like paper and a waitress who smiled like she'd heard every story already. Evan didn't expect to feel anything, but when he slid into the booth, he felt it. A quiet thrum under his ribs, like memory waiting to be acknowledged. He didn't talk about it. He just sat, sipped, and watched headlights pass outside the window. That night, when they got back on the road, he opened his sketch pad and drew the scene from memory. Not because he missed it, but because some things deserved to be seen again. And when he was done, he turned the page and kept drawing. Thank you for listening. Until the next heartbeat in a story, subscribe and stay for more love in every word.